So today I decided to take it really personal into different practices that I do, mainly because I'm still healing my head and I'm trying to integrate my mental healing with also physical healing. So, um, in learning how to release stress, I came across Sarah Savage of Moksha Wellness, and she says there's a toolkit we have, and I'll read them. It's learn to say no. It's like permission. We learn to give ourselves permission. Soft belly breathing is a way to balance ourselves. And it just looks like letting your pelvic floor relax, letting your diaphragm relax, not holding in your belly. And then reframing struggle is to interpret, let's say I'm, from disempowering beliefs to, and it's really bad. I know how it looks. I know it looks terrible. It's not how it looks. It's kind of leaking into this area, the blood, the bruise and stuff, but actually the hit itself is okay. So interpreting, hitting my head. So interpreting busy as productive is a great way to reframe, or interpreting overwhelmed as excited is a great way to reframe. We start to learn how to become more comfortable in those states. Earthing, she says, like, her idea is about 40 minutes. So for me, it may not be laying on the ground or with my feet, but even just like being in nature, it really helps me. Shaking, 15 minutes or so, releases the accumulations. And I've been finding the last few weeks, a few times a week, I just find myself moving and twisting and opening and just letting it be like quick and releasing. And it really helps. And then, of course, meditation. So her insight is dedicate time, make it personal. That's how we get personal healing. Eat smart. So we need amino acids and fatty acids. And most of us, we talk a lot about carbs, vegan, paleo, but really what we need, and then focusing from there, is fatty acid and amino acid. Yoga postures is mind-body practicing. So to practice with the mind and body is to release and to control, and to release and to control. Like, take in energy and exhale energy, and it's like nonstop, the cycle. And then there's how do I bring in personally what I'm going through in terms of feeling the chaos in my life into, am I becoming a teacher? Am I supposed to be, this is something a lot of people worry about, is am I supposed to be recording this information? Should I just be present and show up? That's the step of consciousness, because maybe a lot of us are used to escaping, denying, freezing, dissociating. And in this case, it's like being really present. It's like, is this for the sake of teaching? That's what a lot of people, and you have all these yoga, new wellness coaches, and you have people who are teaching online how to start a business, and people teaching this, teaching that. Everyone's trying to teach from their experience. So I thought, let me look into the Torah scholars' perspectives on teaching. And it said, ill-tempered cannot teach, or a teacher who's too strict. In seeking wisdom, 1, we have to practice silence. 2, we listen. 3, we remember. 4, we practice. And then 5, we teach. So it's like the final step. A lot of people want to go straight from what they heard in the silence straight to teaching or listening. This is what I heard. But actually, we've got to go through all the steps. And then also, a Torah teaching is like, if we're learning in order to teach, like we're learning in order to be able to share with others so they don't have to suffer like we did, then we'll be given the means to learn and to teach. We'll meet people who need what we have to offer. Whether we'll actually be happy about it when we are doing better, and then we have to meet people who are suffering and need our guidance from the ways that we used to. It's not always easy. It might be hard, So another way of doing it is to learn to do. We learn in order to do right in the world. We're actually going to be given the means to both learn, to do, and then also to observe and teach. So we won't only have to meet versions of ourselves that needed lessons. We'll also be able to meet people we can observe, we can do in the world without only having to look at it as like the information itself. We'll be able to apply. And then a teacher should not use sarcasm, shame, ridiculing, or nepotism, which means choose people who are favorites or family. But I would say this applies even to one who has money or has good looks, not to choose someone based on that. A teacher of truth should be able to teach you face to face, which means they don't objectify you and look at you like the object that needs to learn. it is talking to you as if you're their face, you're a version of them. They're going to try to have a cheerful face as much as they can. They're looking into you as the student that they were. We're all students. You have to stay a student to be a teacher. So I was in a meeting yesterday where we have self-inquiry questions as a daily practice. And, we were looking up what patterns come up in our past that caused us to suffer and feel that we were contributing to other sufferings. And I realized it's a lot of my relationships with a man, and even some lingering patterns. I couldn't say specific details at the time, but I could write down these patterns. And these patterns are what I'm looking to heal, because they still show up in some ways, and I may not be acting them out, but they're subtle and they come in. So this is me just running through my old patterns that still show their head sometimes. Talking bad about the person, like, going to people and saying negative things, like to get it off my chest, and not really saying the positive things about it. Impulsivity, like not being thoughtful or careful or lazy about it. Being thoughtless, careless, lazy, because I feel like I earned it, I'm enough, and why should I try? And not really doing the same thing that got me into the relationship. Kind of like letting go of doing the work, not checking in. I forgot one of the cards. Not checking in with myself or pausing with my body. So busy like co-regulating with the other. And that's weight. And that's weight to always co-regulate. Because the other has to be responsible for their own nervous system, feeling comfortable and happy and loved, and mine. So I got lazy and not checking in with myself, with how my body's doing, and also not checking in with them, how their body's doing. Another one is I guess this is like refusing to get my needs met from people who can meet them, but trying to force the one who cannot meet them. And I would say this comes from like not being able to walk away or return to safety when the masculinity feels too aggressive. So the masculine energy feels overwhelming, feels too much, feels too aggressive, and I don't know how to just like walk away, get myself, I'm okay. That's just the manly way of expressing their self. They don't always have the words or the ability, the tone. And instead, it's like, if I need people to speak to me that way, I need to be around women groups, wellness groups, but why am I trying to get a man to be like a woman? That's a pattern. And I remember a long time ago doing this identity workshop where like I did see how I often want my father to be the mother. And that tells a lot about, what my mother was capable of. When my parents got divorced, my mother was often the father. So it's kind of like that, trying to force the man to do what I want rather than going and getting my needs met. Giving endless second chances, and protecting from consequences. Like, you might say I take the pattern of overly biased. Like, I want them to do the right thing so bad that I give them another chance, but they don't actually learn from the consequences what the right thing is. Escaping through restrictive schedules, staying busy, is a way that I kind of can dissociate from what I'm doing in the pattern, like in relationships where I have kind of just kept myself distracted and kept myself busy instead of facing that this person isn't able to do or isn't what I want, or I need to grow. I need to see if I'm still invested, Afraid of making small steps towards solution, I would attach ideas that let me stay in denial that there's any problem or trigger, and not entertaining counseling, instead avoiding grief by connecting with people, the grief of transition. Maybe the relationship needs more space. Maybe it's not able to work anymore, and so on. But instead, it would end up a lot with connecting with people who also don't have the skills or interest in growing more free, like this person I was struggling with. So I'd go and be with people like them and still not get my needs met. So it was the pattern that I was in, and somehow with a man it like played this out. And finally, like oh well, in this one more comment about that is kind of like I would interpret things to match my fantasies of the unmet needs. I was so desperate kind of to get the need met that I would kind of find ways to say, oh, they're doing it, so I could give more chances so that I could get my needs met rather than get more creative or self-sufficient. And finally, a big red flag, and this is a hard one to say, but keeping the lover a secret, not wanting people to know about them, trying to keep them separate in my life, mixed feelings about whether they'll be taken, whether it will be ruined, whether people will tell me it's not good for me, even like without putting photos on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And now I'm going to finish this video with, there's this, I'm going to show you the card that I talked about. It's called 10 Domino Moments. And it's cool how it kind of made a shape, you know, like in the balance. But I will say this. In this book I'm reading, this woman talks about the practice. And she says, the first one you write is I was born. And then you do 9. You say I was born. And you just write them. You don't overthink it, but it's extremely revealing because there's a part of you talking through the exercise. So I did this, and I'll share mine, and I recommend you do it. 10 domino moments, because what I'm sharing here is these patterns. It's hard to tell why did they start, when did they start, how does it relate to my stress, how does it relate to me being a teacher. But here we can say, like, you know, with our domino moments, we can kind of find the layout. It's not linear. It's not about time. It's about the domino effect, one big thing to the next big thing to the next. So I was born. I was Jewish. I was rebellious. I left home young. I indulged and escaped. I developed anxiety. I started coping. I met Michael. I want kids. I awoke. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Wishing you well.